A stony, uncomfortable silence has passed over Vanzilla as the Loud family was driving home from the ill-fated much between Royal Woods roosters and Hazel Tucky hawkers. Normally, this would be Lola and Lana's cue to start a fight, or Lisa's cue to start rambling about ways they could die on their way home, or Lynn's cue to start rousing round beating of Lincoln, who was always glaring at the window with contemptuous scowl on his face. Unfortunately, as the Maharaj of the house, Rita had the obligation to tend to her children, and thus had no choice but to break out the silence. Lincoln, I know you're upset, she said, but I hope you've learned a valuable lesson from this experience. This just prompts Lincoln to cross his arms and slouch further in the seat. Yeah, I've learned that I'm a chump who can't do anything right, he growled. How is that valuable? Lincoln, I don't appreciate that attitude, said Lynn Sr. All right, then, humor me, said Lincoln. What lesson was I supposed to learn from this? Well, that it pays to be honest and follow what you promised to do, said Rita. Are you kidding me? Cried Lincoln. Do you even remember what happened today after I came clean? Lincoln, Rita began, only for Lincoln to cut her off. I lost the game, I got booed off the field, and my team beat me up. He capped himself his statement by punching the window, making an uncomfortably sharp rasping noise. It was what I got for being honest. Well, this whole thing would have not happened if you just exercised with us like we asked you to, chided Lynn Sr. And I would have known that football was my only other choice. While all this was going on, 10 of the Loud sisters could do but little but squirm in their seats, look expectantly out the window, and pray for the Loud House driveway to come into view. Look, I know I was dragging my feet when you tried to get me to exercise, said Lincoln, expressing softening, but I'm sorry for all that. But you don't have to humiliate me for it. Lincoln, sweetie, we weren't trying to humiliate you, said Rita. We weren't? Asked Lynn Sr., prompted to dope slap from his wife. We just wanted you to be healthier, that's all, said Rita. Getting pummeled to the ground isn't healthy, Lincoln grumbled, assuming his grouchy disposition. I know, but we fought. You fought what? Snapped Lincoln. That you could have just thrown me onto the field and start wowing like everyone else, like Lynn always does? Well, I've got news for you. She's one with the talent, not me. She's a hero, and I'm a zero. And those were the last words that were spoken for the entire trip. The last spoken out loud words, at least. Some of the Loud children could hear their parents whispering worriedly to each other as the drive went on. Other than that, silence. At one point, Lynn Sr. had tried to put an arm around Lynn Jr., but her touch caused him to flinch and shoved her away, which it did nothing but worsen the coincidence. How on earth were they supposed to make this right? At last, the trip mercifully ended. Usually there was a routine of every Loud sibling had to follow before entering the house. Gather their belongings, wipe their feet, close the car door behind them, but Lincoln didn't bother with any of that. Nobody seemed to incline to correct him. He just trudged upstairs, leaving a trail of mud and grass in his wake, and was just sit there unlit his room with his head down, moaning pretty much, and feeling sorry for himself. And that was exactly what he did. For a good 30 seconds or before, he heard the sound of his sisters carefully creep open the door to let herself in. Even before she spoke, Lincoln was able to discern who it was from the scented sweat of body spray drifting past his nose. Ah, great, Lynn. Hey, buddy, she called. Go away, Lynn, whined Lincoln. I don't deserve to be seen with you. Lynn let out an exasperated grunt. Lincoln, come on, she said. I know today really sucked, but it'll blow you over. Give me a couple of weeks, and those meatheads on the football team won't even remember what happened today. They'll be too busy, I don't know, kicking each other in the nuts or whatever boys do for fun. I guess, Lincoln said, and I really, really want you to stop beating yourself up over this. I mean, it's just football. There's lots of other stuff you're good at. Oh yeah? Groaned Lincoln. Like what? Lincoln expected Lynn to do a little hemming and hawing before coming up with an answer, but her response was almost immediate. Problem solving, duh, she said, giving Lincoln a few raps on the noggin. Lincoln, you're the tightest purse problem solver I know. Whenever you screw up, you always find a way to turn things around, even 11 minutes. Like, yeah, okay. I'm serious, cried Lynn. Like, who came up with a way to get Lori from stop hogging the bathroom? This prompted to Lincoln to pick up his head off from his desk and look at her in the eyes. Me? Uh-huh, said Lynn. I mean, it was pretty gross, but it worked. You who solved the problem of Sharon Mendoni's riddle before anyone else did. Me, said Lincoln, getting out of his chair. And who figured out a way to try to teach Lenny how to drive? Me, exclaimed Lincoln, slamming his fist into his palm. That's right. Lynn got up in Lincoln's face and started jabbing him in the chest with her finger. So I don't want to hear any more of this wow, woe is me, Lynn is better than me at everything garbage. Because you know damn well that I'm not capiche? Capiche, declared Lincoln, trying to match her intensity. Lynn stepped back and took a deep breath before continuing. Okay, good. Now time for part 2. Part 2? Asked Lincoln, raising an eyebrow at her. Yeah, Lynn started scratching the back of her head as her gaze wandered away from Lincoln. See, I kind of promised Mom and Dad that I'd talk to you about... You're going to lecture me for not exercising, aren't you? No! Cried Lynn. Her eyes snapped back towards Lincoln's. I mean, technically yes, but... Okay, look. I know you're still angry at Mom and Dad for what they did, but fitness is important. They're not wrong about that. Easy for you to say, said Lincoln. You're their family star athlete. Lincoln, every time you pick up a sport, you go pro in 1 week. Of course exercise is fun for Lincoln, snapped Lynn. With a single word, she shut down Lincoln's rant in an instant. It was rare that she had to raise her voice at him, but when she did, she could stop him on a dime. First of all, that last part isn't even true, she said. I did ever recall about the one time you tried gymnastics. It was a nightmare. Every time I tried to dismount, I fell on my butt. I got laughed at the gym. Oh, geez, muttered Lincoln, feeling a twinge of guilt and dragging that was out of her. And second of all, exercise is, Lynn scratched her chin, racketing in her brain for the best way to word her argument. Well, let me put it this way. Remember the time Luna tried to put together that family band for a talent show? Yeah. And remember how she kept telling us that music isn't about being the best? What about it? Lincoln, listen. Exercise is the same way. Lincoln just gave her a deadpan look. I know. It's that kind of hard to believe. After today, but nobody is perfect or great out at sports. You just gotta have to try your best and push yourself a little harder every day. In fact, a smirk began to tug at Lynn's lips as she threw an arm around Lincoln's shoulder and pulled him close. There's something specific I had in mind. It's a workout routine that I think you'll really like. Does it involve me getting tackled? Nope. Does it involve me looking at old people's spandex? Definitely nope. Then I'll give it a try, said Lincoln, returning the smile. Great, said Lynn. Meet me in the backyard tomorrow at 3, and don't forget to stretch beforehand. After the fist bump, the two of them part ways. Soon afterwards, Lincoln plopped himself down on the bed and drifted off to a long, healthy, content sleep. True, he was still pretty sore from the game, and the stench of Lynn's body odor lingered out long after she left. But he kept still like a baby, because none of that mattered to him now. All what mattered is that this was going to be a cool big sister, was going to teach him how to get fit, and have fun while doing it. Tomorrow couldn't come sooner enough. Lincoln's heart flustered with anticipation when he bounded down the stairs to meet Lynn, clad in his gray sweat-stained gym uniform from school, which hadn't been washed for a week. But he figured that Lynn wouldn't mind. Since that morning, all he could do was try to guess what exactly Lynn had in store for him. Well, it's definitely not football, but it doesn't really narrow down. Could it be badminton? Nah, that doesn't seem like her thing. Wrestling? Nah, she wouldn't do that to him after what he went through yesterday. But then again, she does like to play rough, but she did promise it would be something like she said Lincoln would enjoy. So, his heart was still racing by the time she had opened the back door and stepped outside, and was greeted with a sight that made his turbulent his heart sank like stone. Lynn was standing in the center of the yard of a clad sports bra and shorts, with a pair of rough, leathery crimson boxing gloves in her hands. An identical pair of boxing gloves was laid out by the grass by her feet, along with a pair of black focus mitts, a sweat towel, and a pair of iPhone speakers. "Really, Lynn?" groaned Lincoln. "You're making me do boxing? I haven't suffered enough?" Lynn had just smiled and shook her head. "Not boxing, Lincoln. Boxercise." "Boxercise?" parroted Lincoln, tilting his head in confusion. That sounded just fancier word for the name of the sport. "Yeah, it's like cardio workout that makes you mimicking the movements of a boxer." To demonstrate, Lynn threw herself in a swifty flurry jabs and hooks, clapped it off with the uppercut. "You will get to feel like a champion, but you don't have to get hit." Lincoln's face lit up. "That actually sounds pretty cool." "Oh, it is, bro," said Lynn. "Now go on, put those on, and we can get started." "Yes, ma'am," exclaimed Lincoln. He snatched up the gloves and pulled them tight over his fists. They were a little too tight, and a little bit more itchy, as they had a pungent scent that he couldn't describe as pleasant. But he told himself that he would get used to it as the day went on. "All right, good, looking good. Let's get... Wait, did you stretch before you got down here, right?" Lincoln nodded, remembered the few basic stretches from his gym class, the lunge, butterfly stretch, and even the half-moon pose, just to name a few, so he didn't need help with that part of the routine. "Awesome," said Lynn. "Now the first thing we gotta do is get you in a proper stance. Put your feet shoulder width apart." He stood up straight, looked down at his feet, adjusted them until they were more or less level with his shoulders. "Good. Now take a step back with your right foot like this." Lynn stepped back and shifted into a boxing stance with her right foot perpendicular to their left. After looking her up and down a few times, Lincoln tried to mimic her posture. "Like this?" he asked. "Yeah, but bend your knees and keep your toes pointed forward." She walked over to Lincoln and used her foot to nudge her into the proper position. "There, that's better," she said. "Now we gotta teach you how to punch." "Oh, come on, Lynn," Lincoln said with a roll of her eyes. "Even I know how to do that." He then took his fist and threw a flimsy punch that stopped a couple inches away from Lynn's face. Lynn, who barely even flinched from the punch, just crossed her arms and hit Lincoln with a deadpan glare. "That bad, huh?" asked Lincoln, letting his fist drop to his sides. "Lincoln, you couldn't even break a glass with that punch." "Glass is actually surprisingly durable," called an Ashley voice from the second-story window. "Shut up, Lisa!" Lynn called back. "See, Lincoln, the problem is you're just throwing your arm forward. You gotta put your whole body into it." She twisted her body forward and threw a quick, sharp-looking left punch. "See, like that. Now you try." Lincoln put his fist back up and threw another punch to his left. The same thing shifted his weight forward as he did. It didn't take strong as Lynn's, but it was definitely an improvement. "Much better," said Lynn. "Give me 10 of those." Lincoln proceeded to throw 10 left punches, taking his time with each one. "All right now, do you know the difference between a jab and a cross and a hook?" Lincoln just gave her a blank stare. It was pretty sure that he heard those before, but wouldn't be able to tell which one from the other. "I didn't think so," she said, shifting into her boxing stance. "Here, let me show you. First, you have the jab. A jab is a quick high punch that you throw at your lead hand. Basically, what you're doing just now." Then you have the cross, aka Lynn then raised her right arm and flexed her ample bicep. And the powerful punch. Lincoln then surprised a gasp upon seeing the size of her arm. Lynn usually preferred to wear long-sleeve shirts, even during the summer, so it was easy to just forget how buff she really was. For the punch, you're going to have to use your rear hand. Lynn had demonstrated throwing a thunderous crosses, although was standing a few feet from Lincoln. He had cringed at the sight from his perspective. Her crosses looked strong, even enough to smash concrete. Lynn stopped punching as soon as she noticed Lincoln's reaction. "You okay, bro?" she asked, lowering her gloved fist just a tad. "I'm not scaring you, am I?" "What? No, I'm fine," stammered Lincoln. I was just, I don't know what I was, but I'm fine now." "If you say so," Lynn said with a chuckle. "Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, the hooks." Lynn put her fists back up. A hook is more a little complicated. Instead of throwing out your fist out straight, sort of whip it around like this. Lynn threw a left hook in her lead hand, providing the right she did. Now, as you see these, you could throw with these either hand, she said, throwing the right few hooks to demonstrate. Now you try. Remember to keep shifting your weight. Lincoln threw a flurry that of left and right hooks, grunting loudly as he did. Easy, Lincoln, Lynn said, stifling a snicker. Save your energy for the actual exercises. Lincoln struggled to give his sister a sheepish smile. Yeah, sorry about that, Lynn. I guess I kind of get a little carried away. It's okay, said Lynn. Listen, if anything, I'm glad you're enjoying this, instead of trying to sneak off and play video games. Lincoln's smile evaporated as his eyes sunk towards the ground. Mom told you about that, huh? Yeah, she did. But hey, if I get roped in that power walking thing at the mall with my dorky dad, I'd probably be able to sneak off too. The two of them did share a good, hearty laugh before moving on. Anyways, said Lynn, then there's one more punch we have to go over before we get started. Now, I assume you already know what an uppercut is. Sure do, said Lincoln. Let's see it. Lincoln then grinned, eager to show Lynn that he was at least knew something about fighting. He began crouching down as low as he could, dropping his arm to the side. But just as he was about to propel himself forwards, Lynn stepped in and grabbed him by the wrist. Hold on there, Ryu. I asked for an uppercut, not a Shoryuken. Lincoln lost his smile awkwardly and shuffled back into a neutral position, muttering an apology as he did. You don't have to apologize, said Lynn. Truth is, most people have no idea how to throw an uppercut. You remember my friend Paulie Payne? Oh, geez, how could I ever forget? Asked Lincoln, rubbing his back. He was nursing his wounds for weeks after Polly roughed him up in the Sadie Hawkins dance. Well, one time I asked her maybe to be a sparring partner, and it was just hilarious. Her uppercut made her look like she was going in an impression of a windmill. Just to demonstrative, she said she swung her arms and whirled in wide, amorphic circles, while punching the slightest derp face that she could manage. There's nothing getting me. Her display just left Lincoln rolling around on the grass, cackling uncontrollably. While his reaction tickled her at first, it only took about 15 seconds before she got started on getting impatient. Come on, Link. It wasn't even that funny. She bent down and grabbed him by the arm, hoisted him up onto his feet. Once standing, he took a few moments to breathe, regain his composure, and shifted back to his boxing stance. You done? Asked Lynn. Yeah, said Lincoln, letting out a couple more errant giggles escape. Good. Now, so I'm going to show you the correct way to do an uppercut. Your body will be doing the same motion as it does for a cross or a nook, but instead, throwing your fist forward. Lynn then thrust her fist upward as she pivoted. You just pop it up like that. Now you try. Lincoln mimicked her movements as the best of his ability while trying to take her instructions to heart. Pop it up, he said to himself. Like a jack-in-the-box. Yeah, that works. How was that? He asked. Good, but remember to keep your guard up. Lincoln threw a few more uppercuts, this time while he's guarding his face with his free hand. Better, said Lynn. Ready for the first drill? Lincoln gave his sister a cocky smirk, pounding his gloved fists together. You bet your butt I am. Lynn let out a nervous chuckle, unused to seeing much intensity from her little brother. Gotta say, Link, I'm liking the enthusiasm, she said. Anyway, we're going to start out with some command punches. I'll call it a punch and you throw it. Sound simple enough? Yeah. Then give me a jab. Lincoln nodded and threw his lead fist forward, remembering to pivot as he punched. Very good. Now cross. Lincoln reared back, let out an unidentified grunt as he thrusted back his fist forward, and with all the force he could muster. The cross was all his power punch, and so he figured he had his pack much more powerful into it as he possibly could. Okay. How about a right hook? With the cry of Akaya. Then that's when Lincoln took the same fist, swung it around with mass, and then such a force he nearly knocked himself off balance. Easy, Lincoln, Lynn said, getting closer to another chuckle to escape her lips. This isn't a Bruce Lee movie. You don't have to go hi-ya every time you throw a punch. Lincoln shrank away from Lynn. A faint blush began to spread across his face. Oh? No, don't be embarrassed. It's fine. If you just use up all your energy screaming, you're not going to have any lifting left for punching. Okay, so give me a right hook, and this time try to keep your mouth shut and feel planted. Lincoln nodded, then got back up into position and threw another hook, keeping his pursed lips together as he did. This one was powerful less, but more tightly controlled. The motion of the punch was more comparable to the crack of the whip than the swing of a fall. That's what I'm talking about, said Lynn. Now give me an uppercut. For the next few minutes, the drill continued without any interruption. Lynn continually reminded himself to keep his punches strong but restrained, just to keep his feet in position. He knew that eventually he would have to stop to remind himself that those habits would just keep coming to him automatically. At all the time, he had a long way to go before he reached that point. Okay, I think that's enough, Lynn said, for the 40th command punch. Or was that 50? Lincoln wasn't keeping track. The next drill we're going to do is the 5-punch KO. So you just do 2 jabs across and then an uppercut and then a right uppercut. Left and right. She demonstrated with each step a rapid succession. That's when Lincoln thanked his lucky stars that Lynn wasn't using the combo on him, or else he would have been knocked out. Then you repeat over and over. You think you could do that, champ? Sure can, said Lincoln. He got into his boxing stance and threw 5 punches, each of them slow and deliberate. How was that? Not bad. Pick up the pace. Lincoln nodded. He performed the sequence again, this time rushing it. Unfortunately, he wasn't so determined to get through the sequence quickly that he forgot to keep shifting his weight. It got to the point where he looked like he was just flailing his arms out in front of him. Time out, said Lynn, grabbing him by the wrist mid-swing. Now you're going too fast. She took a step back and shifted back into the boxing stance. You gotta hit that balance between power and speed, she explained, demonstrating the combo for Lincoln again. It's a little tricky, but it helps you if you keep the rhythm down. Here, try this. She reached into her pocket, took out her iPhone, and plugged it into the pair of speakers that had been built onto the grass. After flipping through her iTunes app for a few seconds, she hit the play button. The speakers started blasting X Gone Give It To Ya by DMX. I still can't believe Mom lets her listen to that, thought Lincoln. Lynn assumed her position, put up her fists, and started the combo again. This time, punching along to the beat of the song. 1 and a 2 and a 1, 2, 3, she chanted. Each count punctuated by a sting jab and thundering cross to sharp uppercut. Now you try. Lincoln nodded, and he tried to do the combo again, letting the song's persuasion flow from 1 and a 2 and a 1, 2, 3, punch, 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 punch. It almost felt like one of those rhythm games at the arcade that he and Ronnie Ann liked to play together. As he repeated the exercise, Lincoln banners that read, "Excellent," "Great," and "Not bad," hovering over his fists. Yeah, now you're getting it, cheered Lynn. Keep it up, partner. With every rep, Lincoln felt more and more exhilarated. The cool breeze of wind was pushing against his fists, and the bass percussion sending shivers up and down his spine. This was a lot of fun. You're such a wrecking machine, Link, Lynn said, exasperated rasp, with her compliment, as goofy as it was, gave Lincoln yet another surge of enthusiasm. Wrecking machine. I like the sound of that. But once that thing boost wore off, Lincoln noticed that his breathing was becoming more labored, and his arms were just getting a little sore. On top of that, the harsh rays of the sun were starting to take its toll on his body. A few beads of sweat trickled down from his brow into his eyes, stinging them. In spite of this, he continued to soldier on, refusing to let Lynn see even the slightest hint of weakness. Mercifully, Lynn thought the drill would end soon afterwards. All right, I think that's enough of that, she said. Want to take a 5 or go right to the next drill? Let's keep going, Lincoln said, without any moment of hesitation. I'm not even winded. That's a spirit, Link, Lynn said, beaming. The next drill's called a duck and weave. For this one, you're going to have to need my help. She then untied her boxing gloves, ripped them off, and tossed them to the side. In her place, she slipped on the pair of focus mitts that she had laid out earlier. "See, now you're going to be aiming for my mitts when you punch," she explained, holding her mitted hands out for Lincoln to see. "Here, let me get a little closer." Lincoln then gulped as Lynn drew nearer. Her unshakable air of confidence, combined with for impressive muscular or someone to go near her age, made her the last person Lincoln wanted to go toe-to-toe with, and he had kept reminding himself that it was just a training drill, and that she wasn't really going to pound him right to the ground. "So this for the exercise, you're going to have to start off with a jab, then a cross, then a jab, and then a right hook. Why don't you give it a try now?" He nodded as he put up the dukes and started plunging his fists deep into Lynn's waiting hands. His jabs didn't even faze her, but heard a small, girlish grunt of effort escape from her when she blocked his cross and then his hook. "Not bad, partner," she uttered. "So, after you throw the hook, I'm going to take a swing at you, and you're going to have to dunk under it." "Alright, wait. You're going to do what?" He reflexively then threw his arms over his head, exciting a giggle from his big sister. "Lincoln, chill. I'm not going to swing hard. Plus, the whole point of this exercise is for you to dodge it. You could do that, can you?" Lincoln felt a pang of shame as he realized how foolishly and cowardly he must have looked at her. In a desperate attempt to make up for it, he let his arms down, threw his fists up, put on the bravest, most defiant expression he could muster. "Yeah, I can do that. Let's go." A split second after the word go, he threw his first jab and proceeded to blaze through the combo, a little more than a second. As soon as he delivered his right hook, he collapsed into a down squat. A moment later, he felt a light breeze caressing his hair, assumably caused by Lynn's glove whiffing over his head. "You got it right there, the idea," she said, helping him back up to a standing position. "But for the ducking, you don't need to go on a full-on squat. Just so you know, bend your knees a little." "Gotcha," Lincoln grunted, keeping the same face on as he did to start the combo again. While his steps were a little awkward and delayed at first, it didn't take long for him to get into a steady groove. It helped him that the DMX song was still stuck in his head, so he now had a rhythm to follow. At the same time, though, it was getting increasingly difficult to hide the fact that he was wearing himself out. Searing pains were sprouting up and down his arm muscles, and he had to struggle to keep the rhythm of the exercise going strong. Lynn then noticed that she was grazing on top of his head with her swipes, because he couldn't duck quickly enough. After one of the punches nearly collided with his face, she was starting to worry. "Are you all right?" she asked, taking a step back. "We could take a break if you need one." I'm fine," Lincoln lied, forcing himself to stand back up straight, resisting the urge to start wheezing. "But that exercise was getting kind of boring. Give me the next one." "Well, if you say so," said Lynn, giving her brother a wary glance. "This one's actually kind of a lot of fun. It's a little something I like to call freestyle mode." "How does that work?" she asked. "Just throw your punches any way you want to," she said with a grin. "Go for a knockout." The word knockout triggered a burst of adrenaline in Lincoln's system. He expanded, exploded into a flurry of improvised punches. Jab, left hook, cross, right hook, jab, 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 left uppercut, right cross, jab, cross, right hook, jab, right uppercut. He began to imagine that nameless anonymous goons were wandering by the way of punches and paying dearly for it. Every cross he would send a goon sprawling out onto the grass below, and every uppercut he would launch would be one into the air. "You thought you could mess with me? Jab, cross, left uppercut. I'm Lincoln Loud, cross, right uppercut, jab, jab. I'm unstoppable. Cross, cross, cross. I'm not a chump. You are the chump. Left hook, right uppercut, left." Unfortunately, adrenaline rushes don't last so long, and Lincoln's fatigue was only getting harder and harder to ignore, though. Heaven knows he was tired. Right uppercut, cross, jab, jab. I'm not tired. I'm not even getting started. Left hook, left uppercut. I could do this all day if I wanted to. Cross, jab, cross, right hook. I'm the champion. Champions never quit. While this was going on, he can hear Lynn's voice downing on unintelligibly in the background. You okay, Link? You want a break? Rest so much if you're tired. Just then when he was about to turn her out, jab, cross, right, uppercut. I am not weak. Left hook, cross, jab. I'm just good as. It was at that moment that Lincoln's body finally gave out. He threw one more flimsy, half-hearted punch before letting his fists drop to the sides, falling on his knees, collapsing face first onto the ground, and passing out. 15 minutes later, Lincoln woke up into the sensation of his soft, spongy mattress pressing up against his back. He opened his eyes to find himself surrounded by 4 walls of his room, with Lynn staring a face down at him. Have a nice nap, sleepyhead? What happened? He muttered, rubbing his eyes. You pushed yourself too hard is what happened, she said, her snarky smirk replaced with a scolding frown. Why didn't you tell me you were getting tired? I don't know. You're gonna have to give me a better answer than that, chided Lynn, crossing her arms. I said I don't know. Leave me alone. Lincoln, I want an explanation. I asked you several times if you wanted a break and why you said no. Why? Because I want to make you proud, okay? Cried Lincoln, sitting up and snapping out of exhaustion superior. I wanted to prove that I can hang out with you, that I could keep up with you. Lynn's expression softened as her little brother's words sunk in. Aw, Lincoln. She then took a seat on the bed next to him, gently took his hand into hers. First of all, of course I'm going to have more stamina than you. I'm older than you, and I've been exercising for way longer. You'll get better as long as you keep up week after week. She paused for a moment and wiped a few beads of sweat off of Lincoln's brow before continuing. Second of all, you don't have to prove to me anything. I'm not going to think less of you just because you're not as fit as me. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. And third of all, a smile broke out across her face, and her grip tightened. I'm proud of you. You did great today. You followed my instructions, you didn't complain, and you gave me 110%. I couldn't have asked for anything more. Lincoln then broke out into a smile of his own. Thanks, Lynn. No problem, little bro. And with that, she threw her arm around his shoulder, pulled him close, promptly pushed him off the bed, and shoved him towards the door. Now, go take a shower. You smell like a whale taint.